Welcome to a short video on solving equations. The goal of this video is to encourage students who are learning concepts in chemistry to make sure that their equation solving skills are ready and available to use to work through problems. So I just want to give a few examples, talk about the general principle for solving equations, and then that'll be it for this video. So basically, I've taught math for about 10 years, and one of the things I've realized is that the one key topic that affects almost everything else is solving equations. So when you're given an equation like AB is equal to C, and you're told to solve for B, for example, well, you would divide both sides by C. Sorry, you divide both sides by A, right? So you divide by A, and that's what you get. You get B is equal to C over A. Now, notice that I divided both sides because the relationship between A and B was a multiplication. So I used the opposite operation, which is division, to divide both sides by the thing that I didn't need to solve for. Because I'm solving for B, so I divided both sides by A. Let me talk about the general principle for solving equations, and then we'll go back and do another example. PEMDAS is a very good principle for simplifying expressions, right? You do the parentheses first, and then exponents, multiplication, division, and then addition, subtraction. But when you're solving equations, you actually go in the opposite direction normally. I'll give you an example with a very famous equation in chemistry. If you're given C is equal to 5 over 9, and then F minus 32. In this particular case, it is actually, I mean, you could look at it a few different ways, but one way you can deal with this case is to get rid of that 5 over 9, and then you get to the F minus 32. You get into the parentheses after you deal with this part, right? So if I multiply both sides by 9 over 5, so if I multiply both sides by 9 over 5, so now I have 9 over 5 times C is equal to F minus 32. So notice that I took care of the, I multiplied first, and now I'm going to deal with what was in the parentheses, that F minus 32. So now I add 32 to both sides because the opposite operation of subtraction is addition. So I'm going to add 32 to both sides. So the answer is, we have C, 9 over 5C plus 32 is equal to the degrees Fahrenheit. So that's how we work through to solve for the Fahrenheit. If we've been given the, if we're asked to solve for Fahrenheit, in this case, for temperature, we go ahead and multiply both sides by 9 over 5 first, and then we add 32 to both sides. So that's one way to solve equations. So let's look at another example, a situation where they ask you, for example, M1 V1 is equal to M2 V2. So with this equation, if I'm looking for the molarity or the volume, recognize that if you're solving for M1, right, then you divide both sides by V1. If you're solving for M2, you divide both sides by V2. If you're solving for V1, you divide both sides by M1. And if you're solving for V2, you divide both sides by M2. So when you're solving equations, it's always important to know, what am I looking for? And then what do I need to do to get rid of everything else around the thing I'm looking for? I'll leave you with one piece of advice with working with formulas as a whole. If you have a topic where formulas are involved, I really encourage you to always write the formula down that you're trying to use, and then write down the values you've been given for each of the items you've been given, and then solve for the unknown value, right? So for example, if someone says that my initial concentration is 5 molar, and the concentration they want to have at the end of the day is 0.5 molar, and they want to have 10 milliliters of that, then I'm looking for V1, right? That's what I don't know. So I've written down all the values I've been given. I'm just using some numbers here for simplicity. And you're solving for V1, right? So if you're looking for V1, you know the formula is M1 V1 is equal to M2 V2. So you divide both sides, right, by M1. So now we have V1 is equal to 0.5 times 10 divided by 5, right? So you basically are multiplying the M2 V2, dividing that by M1, right? So basically we have the volume of 1 milliliter will be what we have as our answer. So that's just an example of using a formula. Always want to encourage you to show your work because it'll be helpful to catch any mistakes. Anyone can make mistakes, so it's important to write down the formula, write down the values you've been given, solve for the variable or the thing you're looking for by dividing or multiplying or adding or subtracting depending on the relationship that the variable has. I have a worksheet with more problems that can help you just practice this skill. So if you like that, let your TA know, and they can pass on the PDF. Have a wonderful day, and keep up the good work trying to learn and trying to get better at chemistry.